Testing, 1, 2, 3. There it is. Hello, folks. How you doing out there this week? I have got so much going on this week. We've got Kim Davis, who is refusing. She's the county clerk over in Kentucky, in Rowan County, Kentucky. She is refusing to give out any marriage licenses since the Supreme Court decision on same-sex couples. And she is now in jail. We're going to take a look at that. We've got black activists running wild out there, making threats, making terroristic threats. You got Black Lives Matter. You got the new Black Panther Party. You got Louis Farrakhan. They're calling for violence, calling for the killing of white people, the killing of cops. We're going to talk about that. We've got Jeb taking some pot shots at Trump, and when you hear him do it, you'll laugh. I did. It's just too funny. We're going to talk about that. And I have a few stories here that I've been putting... Well, I've got one on Hillary that's new, but I've got a story that I've been kind of wanting to get to for a few weeks now, probably even a month, and I just haven't gotten to it. It's pretty funny, too. We're going to talk about that, all of that, right here, right now, on this, The Ray Warner Show, hosted by me, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, or any feedback for me or the show, if you feel the need to rant or vent as much as I do, maybe you just want to tell me to shut up, you can do that too. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Well, folks, let me be the first to welcome you to China or to Russia. Welcome to North Korea. Welcome to Iran. That must be where we are. If you're a Christian here in the United States, you may as well move to one of those countries. An American citizen whose rights, God-given rights, recognized and guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. An American citizen is in jail for having a religious belief. If you listen to the quick reports, and you should, then you heard the ugly scene in the office of Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis the day after her emergency petition to the Supreme Court was denied. She petitioned an emergency petition to put an order on hold, an order that was ordering her to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, and that was denied. Her petition to put it on hold, which means the order stands. So the very next day, with a lot of hoopla and media and television cameras, in walks the same-sex couples demanding their marriage license. And during the quick report, I played bits and pieces of what happened. Here is more of what went on in her office.
Right. The injunction is the order that you're supposed to issue marriage licenses.
And we're not issuing marriage
The
licenses
Supreme
today.
Court denied your stay.
We are not issuing marriage licenses today. So
Based on what?
I would ask you all to
Why are you not
go ahead
issuing
and
marriage
do that.
licenses today?
Because I'm not.
Under
Why?
whose authority are you not issuing
Under
licenses?
God's authority.
Lawyers tell you.
I don't
Did
believe
God
in your
tell you
God.
to do this? Did God
I
tell
don't
you to
believe in your
treat
God.
us?
I don't
like
believe in your
this?
I've
God.
asked you all to leave. You are interrupting my
You can call the
business.
police if you want us to leave. You can call the police. I pay your salary. I pay your salary. I pay you to discriminate against me right now. That's what I'm paying for. That's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for this memory with my partner that I love, that I've been with for 17 years. What's the longest you've been with someone, that you've been married to someone?
I'm asking you to leave.
I'm not leaving.
Okay, you all
I'm asking you-
just
I'm not
push back
leaving.
away. You all are more
I'm not
welcome to
leaving.
stay. Just
I
push back
can't help
away
that
from
the
the counter.
president.
No.
Just push back
We're
away
not
from the
leaving until we
counter.
have a license. We're not leaving
Then
until
you're
we
going
have
to
a
have a
license.
long
Do your
day.
job.
Well, when
Today.
you call the police, when you
your
come,
job.
I'll ask them to arrest you.
Do your job.
Call the police! Call the police! I will have to arrest you! You should be ashamed of yourself!
Now, of course, the ACLU wanted her held in contempt of court And they moved to do just that the very next day. And now she's being held in contempt of court. She is in jail for her religious belief. How in the world did we get here? How does this happen in the United States of America? And you may find this interesting, but in Kentucky law says marriage is between one man and one woman. That's the law in Kentucky. So, is Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis being jailed for upholding the law? Upholding the state law in Kentucky? Did the judge even consider that in this case when he put her in jail? He is a Clinton appointee, by the way, which is another big piece of the puzzle. No, he made this ruling based on federal law, could care less what Kentucky law is, or at least the recent ruling by the United States Supreme Court, not necessarily federal law. We're not supposed to legislate from the bench, right? But many interpret the law or the Supreme Court's ruling to mean that same-sex marriage is the law of the land in all 50 states. But regardless of why this judge did what he did, the end result is an American citizen is in jail for standing by her religious belief based on her Christian faith. And of course, everybody says, well, she's the county clerk. She's an elected official. She has to uphold the law regardless of whether she agrees with it or not. Well, what about the leftist who sits down on the tarmac, refusing to board the plane to go serve his country during wartime, even after willingly joining an all-volunteer military? He sits there and talks about how he can't go and kill for his country because he can't take a life, or they may even do it on some religious grounds. If you're in the military, are you an employee of the federal government? I think you're actually government property when you're in the military. See, we have conscientious objector laws that protect people like that, even from a federal government sanctioned or sponsored activity like going off to war. So, what about this conscientious objector to the law? See, to the left only likes it when the laws work in their favor, not when it works against them. Then they just have a fit. The left has wanted to destroy Christianity for a long, long time. And here we are. They are so close they can taste it. And make no mistake, that's what this is about. It's about the left bullying and intimidating anyone holding Christian beliefs into submission. Because it's not enough that they have what they want. There can be no disagreement. There can be no dissent. If you believe differently from them, it will not be tolerated. And you tolerating their behavior, that's not good enough. You must promote what they believe. You must validate what they believe. You must somehow justify their demonic behavior. And they simply will not stop until you do. Your complete and utter cave to their point of view is what they're all about. And here's another little interesting tidbit about Kentucky law. A couple from one county in Kentucky can go to any other county in Kentucky to obtain a marriage license. But again, that's not good enough. These gay couples can go to any other county to get the license. But their marriage must not be as important to them as the cause of liberalism. If they wanted first and foremost to have their ceremony, they would have got their license and had their ceremony. But instead, they chose to put their ceremony on hold. That's how important it is to them. They put it on hold for as long as it takes to bully and intimidate a Christian into surrendering to their twisted beliefs. And what makes their belief more important? What makes their belief more important than hers? Is it the fact that they're louder? Or that they're more arrogant? Is that what it is? You know, in Texas, they've kind of worked it out so that clerks who understand that marriage is between one man and one woman and that's all it will ever be, they do not have to issue licenses to same-sex couples. They've worked it out so that a clerk that isn't opposed to a same-sex couple getting a license, that clerk can issue it in the place of the clerk who is opposed to it. And at the end of the day, everyone's happy, everyone's got what they want, and at least doing it that way doesn't violate anyone's First Amendment rights. And as I said, in Kentucky, you don't have to violate someone's First Amendment rights. You don't have to put a Christian in jail. Any couple can go to any other county and get a license. But they would rather put Kim Davis in jail for her religious belief, to prove a point, to win the argument, to bully and intimidate, and thereby strip her of her First Amendment rights. Just like these same-sex couples. They want a cake for their ceremony. They can go anywhere. They can go anywhere to get their cake. But what do? They walk into the Christian bakery and force them to bake the cake. I have a question. My hand is raised. What would happen if Kim Davis said she could not issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple because of her Muslim faith? What would happen then? I'd be really interested to know. Through this whole Iran deal process, we keep hearing mention of the 4 Americans being held over there in Iran, and people wondering why Obama hasn't gotten them out, gotten their freedom as part of the deal. Of course, he's had, some excuse time and time again, but I guess we'll see. We'll see how much trouble Obama has getting a Christian out of jail here in America. I guess we'll find that out. And here's another little something for you to chew on during the break. Kim Davis is being held in contempt of court and jailed for refusing to enforce a law that she doesn't like or that she disagrees with. Well, isn't that what Obama does kind of on a daily basis? They had this woman in jail within days. What's taking so long up in Washington, D.C. to get the laws enforced by the White House? We'll be back, folks. Stay right there. Plenty more to come.
Saying what needs to be said every day on The Ray Warner Show.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
You have reached your destination.
I feel like every day we are losing more and more of our freedom.
Can you believe American businesses are fleeing American oppression and seeking opportunity in foreign countries?
Our country is against the ropes.
We need to rise up. We need to speak out.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
The people need to understand.
I am concerned about my future.
That's why I listen to The Ray Warner Show.
America is a nation people climb walls to get into, not climb walls to escape.
There's nothing he won't say on the air. I like that.
Obama has got to be the worst leader of any organization the world has ever seen. Whoever is feeding Harry Reid his peas, please tell him that's not how our government is supposed to work.
It's like he says what I'm thinking.
What part of spending bills originate in the House is confusing you?
Saying what needs to be said.
This year's migration to the border was different than in past years.
This year's migration? Like they're a flock of geese and they're going to go back? When the season's over?
The public needs to be educated.
We have the emails. The emails that show global warming is a fraud. We have the proof that they conspire to cover up the truth.
Always speaking the truth.
No government entity can change the definition of God-ordained marriage. It's not a possibility. They can believe they have changed it, but they cannot change that any more than they can change gravity.
Real-time analysis.
So I guess Pelosi was wrong. We don't need to pass the bill and find out what's in it because it doesn't matter what's in it. It's just going to be interpreted however we want, willy-nilly, to mean whatever on any given day.
Keeping it real.
Zealots who randomly shoot a bunch of folks in a deli.
Well, that was just random. Who knew? I mean, who knew the Islamic nutjobs would find Jews in a kosher deli? But those were just random people. They were just in the wrong random place at the wrong random time.
He holds nothing back.
Liberals, take your brain for a test drive.
Every day on The Ray Warner Show.
Hey, ISIS. Welcome to Texas. We can turn this nation around, but it will not happen if the Lord is not in it.
You're listening to The Ray Warner Show. Resistance is futile.
Major Ferguson, he and 3 of his sharpshooters are at one location. They're up high in the trees, and they're just picking off American soldiers, American officers at will. They're just popping and dropping these guys. And they've been doing it all morning. And suddenly a guy comes riding into the picture, and there's actually 2 American officers. And for whatever reason, Major Ferguson, he said he just had this impulse that came over him and said, I shot enough guys this morning. I don't think I need to shoot anymore. And so he had his rifle lined up on this officer, had it lined up, and he was about to pull the trigger, and he said this impulse suddenly came over him not to shoot, and so he didn't shoot. And he said the officer looked up full in his eyes, and they stared at each other. The officer looking right down the barrel, looking up into the tree where he's sitting with the barrel, sitting with his rifle. He didn't pull the trigger, and the officer looked at him and then just slowly turned his back to him and just walked off on his horse. The 2 officers going off. The officer turned out to be George Washington. Later, his men that were with him said, don't you know who that was? You could have ended the American Revolution. So those are the kind of miracles that you see throughout history that are inexplicable unless you understand that there is a divine hand directing the counterplan, and that's the way American history is written.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show, hosted by me, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or feedback, maybe you just want to rant or vent or tell me to shut up, well, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. I mentioned Obama's Iran deal before. Did you know Debbie Wasserman Schultz blocked support for Obama's Iran deal? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the slumber party snot-nosed brat, can I brush your hair cheerleader, chair of the DNC, against Obama's Iran deal. I mean, that's like, wow. That blonde airhead got this one right. Of course, Obama got his votes, though. He's got his veto-proof minority over there in the Senate. Now, Obama's race war is in full bloom. He must be so proud. Just proud as punch. Proud as can be. And if you ask me, he and Eric Holder could both be arrested for inciting violence, for some of the dumb things they've said in all of these shootings and other tragedies. But what I want to know, here's another question I have. Why has this person not been arrested for inciting violence?
I'm looking for 10,000 in the midst of 1 million. Listen. I'm looking for 10,000 in the midst of the million. Midst of the million. 10,000 fearless men. Who say death is sweeter than continued life under tyranny. Death is sweeter than to continue to live and bury our children while white folks give the killer hamburgers. Death is sweeter than watching us slaughter each other to the joy of a 400-year-old enemy. Death is sweeter. The Quran teaches persecution is worse than slaughter. Then it says retaliation is prescribed in matters of the slain. Retaliation is a prescription from God to calm the breath of those whose children have been slain. So if the federal government will not intercede in our affairs, then we must rise up and kill those who kill us. Stop them and kill them and let them feel the pain of death that we are feeling.
Louis Farrakhan wants a 10,000-man army to go around and kill white people. How does this man get away with this? How does he get away for his public incitement of violence and murder? He is calling for murder, calling for violence, inciting black people to violence. He is not only promoting violence, he is being very specific about the kind of violence he's looking for. He wants black people to kill white people. I mean, is that not a hate crime on steroids? Wanting to put an army together to do your work for you? Now, those of you who listen to me regularly, you know, I don't care who is what color on either side of a murder, a shooting, a riot, a police incident, the race or ethnicity of the people involved on either side. It just doesn't matter to me. In my opinion, it shouldn't matter. Now, I know it matters to the left. I mean, that's why we have hate crimes. The left wants, someone doubly punished when a crime is committed against them. I mean, heck, there's people on the left that want to put you in jail when you expose global warming for the fraud that it is. But as far as I'm concerned, the facts are what should determine the outcome of any case, any investigation. But this Black Lives Matter movement, it seems like this whole thing is just getting worse and worse with each incident. And the facts just don't matter to these people. I mean, it started with Michael Brown. After committing strong-arm robbery, and they seem to forget this, but he robbed a convenience store. Just prior to meeting up with law enforcement, he robbed a convenience store. He then attacked the police officer, Darren Wilson, punched him in the face, trying to take his gun away from him. What would have happened if he had succeeded? You ever thought about that? I mean, there's a good chance he would have shot him with it, right? And he did have marijuana in his system at the time. They forget that too. And then he charges at the officer. So Officer Darren Wilson, defending his life, kills Michael Brown. This was when a number of lies hit the national stage. We were all told about how, Michael Brown, just a gentle giant, eager to start college. I mean, you should have heard some of these stories. While delivering canned goods to his local church, blah, 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 blah. This was when the whole hands up, don't shoot lie started. And when we heard the no justice, no peace threat to civil society. Officer Darren Wilson was not indicted. Well, that was justice, which means we should have had peace, right? Because according to the evidence, he should not have been indicted. He did nothing wrong. But the crowd in Ferguson chanting no justice, no peace, they were not really interested in justice. They just wanted to get their way, which was to have Darren Wilson's head on a platter. This poor guy and his family, I mean, he'll never work as a police officer again. He'll probably never be seen in public again. And why? He was exonerated by the facts. But black radical activists don't care about facts. So then we have Eric Garner. He was resisting arrest. He was obese. He fought the police. And when they finally had him handcuffed on the ground, he had a heart attack, and he died in police custody. And then, of course, we heard all about the chokehold, which wasn't a chokehold, just a way for an officer to try to get someone twice his size under control. Eric Garner was being belligerent. The police were called there by the local business owners because he was there breaking the law. And I know it's a stupid law. New York is so money hungry for their sky-high taxes on cigarettes that they have created this black market for people like Eric Garner to operate in. And he was selling what they call loosies or loose cigarettes. Yeah, it was stupid, but he had to be arrested. And nonetheless, he actually stood there and told police, no. He told them, no, this ends now. As if he's going to argue his way out of being arrested. As if the police are going to, oh, okay, well, as long as you're saying no, I guess we'll just walk away and leave you alone. Because that's what police are supposed to do. You know, when business owners call them to their place of business, or homeowners, or, you know, any citizen in the United States who calls the police for their assistance, that's what the police are supposed to do when they meet resistance, right? They're supposed to just leave. And of course, this guy resisted, and he was taken down, and he had a heart attack while handcuffed on the ground. And then we had Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray threw himself around, thrashed around in the back of a paddy wagon while being transported to the jail, and he injured himself, almost fully severing his spinal cord. Somehow that's the fault of the police, too. And now you can make the argument that either some or all of the officers failed to follow, you know, some department policy or whatever, that he should have been restrained inside the vehicle and not able to hurt himself. I can go for an argument like that, but this Marilyn Mosby character, she's charged some of these cops with murder. And there's no way anyone is ever going to be convicted of murder in that case. And now we have this latest one, this Sandra Bland. She committed suicide in her jail cell. And somehow that's the fault of police officers. She hung herself. And that's the cop's fault. The only incident that they're not upset about is the actual shooting. The one in Charleston, South Carolina, where a black man was shot in the back while running away. That's the one I cannot figure out. They have video of it. Clearly, black man running away from a white cop, and the white cop shooting the black man in the back as he's running away. I mean, that is the scenario that they try to make out of every case. And there it is. They have it. They have a real, actual case to be upset about, and they ignore it. For the life of me, I can't figure that out. In the other instances, they act like that's what happened. Like a cop killed a black man in cold blood. They act like Michael Brown was murdered, execution style, by a white cop. But that's not what happened. And the situation in South Carolina where it really did happen, that one they ignore. I think it's telling. You know, you have the four main high-profile cases. All were fighting to some degree with the police. Michael Brown died attacking the officer right before any arrest would have happened. Eric Garner died just after the arrest. Freddie Gray died, or more accurately, I guess, wounded himself in a way that eventually killed him on his way to the jail. And Sandra Bland died in the jail by way of suicide. So you've got before the arrest, after the arrest, on the way to the jail, and in the jail. You've got male and female represented. I mean, you could argue all four of them more or less committed suicide. And don't get me wrong, they're all terrible, terrible tragedies. But all were avoidable. They were not the fault of the police. The only real case was the one in Charleston, South Carolina, but nobody cares about that one. So now you have black activists shooting white police officers, like the two in New York, Officers Lou and Ramos, who were murdered while just sitting in their patrol car. And of course you have the hatchet guy, the guy, what was his name? Zale Thompson, that was him. Goes running up to four police officers and starts swinging an axe around. I mean, what was he thinking? I think he was more of an Islamic nutjob, though, than a black activist. And there are others, but the most recent one in all of our minds now is Sheriff's Deputy Darren Goforth, murdered while pumping gas into his squad car. Murdered by a black man who snuck up behind him for the sole purpose of shooting him in the back of the head. I mean, there's a good chance that Goforth never knew what hit him. And if you haven't heard this video, this is sickening. This is a video that this guy posted after that shooting. Listen to this.
I want to talk about the shooting of the white deputy sheriff in Houston, Texas. Reminds me of a Bob Marley song, I Shot the Sheriff. Very interesting. To me, what the Houston, Texas brutal execution before the public represents to me is its open season on killing whites and white police officers. And probably killing cops, period. It's open season. So now you got some black militant or some angry black man walks up and executes a cracker cop in broad daylight. This is real. It's open season on killing white people and cops. It's unavoidable, inescapable. It's funny that now we'll move into a time where the predator will become the prey. Today, we live in a time where the white man will be picked off, and there's nothing he can do about it. His day is up. His time is up. We will witness more executions and killing of white people and cops than we ever had before. We see with the Houston, Texas shooting, and we see with the news reporting shooting in Virginia. It's about to go down. It's open season on killing white people and crackers. And they're willing to get you when you least expect it. Come at you when you're not thinking about it. It's not safe no more to be white in America. Lurking behind any corner could be an angry black man ready to take your out. It's a reality. It's open season on killing whites and police. And they better make some serious changes, social changes at this point, because it ain't looking good. And they gonna get embarrassed, because just when they tried to make themselves look invincible and untouchable and we got this under control, clearly there's some black people out here that's about to show you that you might not just have it like that.
It's open season on killing cops and white people. There's going to be a black man lurking around every corner, ready to take you out if you are white or a cop, unless we make some serious social changes. That's the threat that this clown is giving us. What changes would those be? We just allow violent criminals to attack our police? Is that what we're supposed to do? Disarm the cops and let the criminals attack them? We just allow robbery at convenience stores? We just walk away? We just allow it to happen? We're supposed to just back off and let these things happen? And if a police officer is attacked by a black man, the officer is not allowed to defend his life? He is to just sit there, motionless, and allow himself to be killed? Is that the change you're looking for? Is that the serious social change you're talking about? Are we all supposed to just allow this rioting to happen? When a police car is on fire or a CVS burns to the ground, we're supposed to just look the other way? I'm sorry, this has to stop. This cannot be allowed to continue. I know we have a leader right now in the White House that wants this sort of thing to be happening, but we are very rapidly sinking into lawlessness, a society of anarchy, and it has to stop. Where is the FBI on this? Where is the FBI on this guy making serious threats of violence, to murder, or to support the murder of white people at random, and police officers at random? But a bunch of senior citizens at a Tea Party rally, a gathering of grandparents with canes and walkers demanding smaller government and less taxes and reasonable spending, those are domestic terrorists. But not this guy. Not the chance of, what do we want, dead cops, when do we want it now? That's not terrorist activity. I mean, it's absurd. How did we get here? Honestly. And does this clown really want a race war? I mean, what do you want? A line in the sand, whites on one side, blacks on the other, and this have at? I mean, is that what you want? What is the population in this country? What's the percentage of whites to blacks? I mean, how many whites have firearms and are trained in the use of firearms? How many cops, for that matter? How many hunters out there? You know, and their kids have rifles, and they teach their kids to shoot. And this guy wants a race war? What, are you kidding me? And I got news for you. Most of the black population disagrees with you, by the way. It was the testimony of black witnesses that exonerated Officer Darren Wilson. Not all blacks are violent, white-hating, racist thugs like you. In fact, you're the minority. Even in the black minority, you are the minority within that minority. We here at the Ray Warner Show, we love our law enforcement. Please, if you're in law enforcement, be careful out there. I cannot say enough. You need to have each other's backs. You need to have your head on a swivel. Please look out for each other out there and stay safe. And if you're white, I don't know, I guess get your concealed carry, because there's people out there who just want a race war. You know what? And if you're black, get your concealed carry. If you're a law-abiding citizen, white or black, get your concealed carry. Dylan Roof went into a black church and shot up a bunch of people, and none of them had a concealed carry. None of them had a firearm on them. None of them stopped him. I wish they had a concealed carry and could have stopped this guy. Now, I also played you part of a soundbite of a Black Panther Party leader doing what appeared to be some kind of drill and ceremony, marching some Black Panther members around, doing some kind of chant, and he was actually threatening these people. This was in front of the Waller County Jail, and he was threatening the cops, and he was saying, you know, we're going to sneak up on you at night, just like the guy did that shot Darren Goforth. But I want to play some more of that. Here's some more of this new Black Panther Party gathering at the Waller County Jail, threatening law enforcement. Listen to this.
Left, turn your hand to the left. Left! Hey! All power to the people! 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 Oink, oink! Bang, bang! Here, y'all. Oink, oink! Bang, bang! 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 All power to the people! 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 Let's go, Yakanara Rockers, baby. We rock the patch to say freedom again. We rock the patch to say freedom again. And we mean it till our last breath. And we mean it till our last breath. We rock the patch to say freedom again. We rock the patch to say freedom again. And we mean it till our last breath. And we mean it till our last breath. Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. All power to the people. 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 Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. Too black, too strong. All power to the people. 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 The revolution has come. Off the beat. Time to pick up the gun. Off the beat. No more pigs in my community. Off the beat. No more pigs in my community. Off the beat. Revolution has come. Off the beat. Time to pick up the gun. Off the beat. No more pigs in my community. Off the beat. No more pigs in my community. Off the beat. No more brothers in jail. Off the beat. No more sisters in jail. Off the beat. Pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the beat. Pigs are gonna catch hell. Freedom again. We want our damn freedom.
So there you hear, just like I said, new Black Panther Party leader looks in the video like he's doing some kind of drill and ceremony, marching them around. And this is the jail, by the way, the Waller County Jail where Sandra Bland hung herself. She was in a jail cell alone and hung herself. How that is the fault of police, I'll never know. But you'll hear the argument. She never should have been in there in the first place. Well, maybe so. And an investigation will have to determine that. But she hung herself. How is that the fault of any police officer? That she hung herself in her jail cell. So, anyway, these new Black Panther clowns, they're out there. no more brothers in jail, no more sisters in jail. So here we're back to this now. I mean, what? We just let them out? We just open the doors, and just let them go? Just let them go? Just let them walk? What? I mean, don't worry. Obama's on the case. He went to Oklahoma. He pardoned a bunch of inmates there. So don't worry. He's on the job. And here's an idea. I've got an idea. Stop breaking the law. How about that? I know. It's a radical idea. I mean, it's like, this crazy concept. Don't break the law. Don't fight with the police. Here's another one. When you do something wrong, why don't you man up and accept the consequences for your actions? How about that? I know, another radical, crazy idea, another crazy concept. We'll be back, folks. Stay right there.
Keep listening and keep conservative values going. Please donate and subscribe at theraywarnershow.com.
My fellow Americans, the left's attack on assault weapons is back. There is no doubt that it's a tragedy when anyone takes the life of another without cause. But to blame assault weapons for these tragedies would be like, blaming airplanes for the 9/11 attacks. The problem lies with the perpetrator, not the tool used to commit the crime. The left is now screaming from the rooftops that there is no good reason for any American to own an assault weapon, that they're not good weapons for defense or for hunting. Frankly, they're missing the point. Take it from my philosophical guru and life coach, Ice-T.
The right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
That's why fellow rapper Ice-T and I are in poppin' lockstep on gun control regardless of any East Coast, West Coast rap rivalry. Well, if the advice of a couple of aging rappers isn't enough for you, how about these reasons? Number one, the Constitution. The libs are already saying Chuck's off his meds again, and he's back talking about that old, outdated historical document, the Constitution. Doesn't he get it that it doesn't apply today? Sorry to break it to you, but as of right now, the Constitution is still the law of the land. And since we are a nation of laws, not men, we need to follow it carefully. Number two, the Second Amendment allows for assault weapons. The left argues that the Founding Fathers didn't even know what an assault weapon was. As usual, this argument's wrong again. To say that the Constitution limits the kinds of guns we can own would be like saying it also limits the kinds of religion people can practice. How would it be if some people thought you could practice Catholicism, but not Scientology? Our Founding Fathers wanted every citizen to be armed equal to the Army in case of takeover by a tyrannical government. They wanted us to have protection from them. How would things have been different in Nazi Germany had the people been armed? Think about the protesters that have been killed by their own government in Iran. An armed society would not have that problem. Number three, assault weapons act as a deterrent against foreign invasion. During World War II, the Emperor of Japan instructed his commanders to plan an invasion of America. He felt very empowered after Pearl Harbor and believed our military to be very weak, which at the time it was. The commander-in-chief of the Japanese Navy, Isoroku Yamamoto, told the emperor, and I quote, "You cannot invade the mainland of the United States. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass." Notice, he did not talk about fearing the U.S. Army. It was the American people that he feared. Eventually, Yamamoto would stop trying to attack us and instead started selling us terrific fishing lures, which I'm a big fan of. It is the fact that there is a gun behind every blade of grass that prevents any other country from even thinking about invading our nation. Take away the assault rifles, and you have weakened that defense. Number four, there's already a ban on assault rifles. Well, you don't hear that very much, but there has been tight controls on assault rifles since 1934. Well, how can that be? The U.S. military defines an assault rifle as something that can fire intermediate-powered cartridges on selective fire. For you girly men watching, that means automatic fire, like a machine gun. The left invented the term assault weapon to describe rifles that bear some similarity to real assault rifles, like this one. This way, they can make it against the law to own a gun that looks like an assault weapon. Really, is it against the law to look like something else? In that case, shouldn't Henry Waxman be arrested for resembling Ratatouille? Number 5, handguns kill people too. Some nut jobs claim that assault weapons are too dangerous. Really? So you find a Glock 40 caliber is just to be a little dangerous? All guns are deadly in the wrong hands. And number 6, we need the jobs. The gun industry employs 184,000 people. And these are good paying jobs averaging $45,000 a year. A ban on so-called assault weapons will result in laying off thousands of these workers. But of course, that's no big deal since we don't have an unemployment problem. Crazed criminals shooting up innocent people is a tragedy. But all the gun bans in the world will not stop them. Criminals will always find the weapons they need to carry out their crimes. The only people that will be going unarmed are the law-abiding citizens like you and me. When you hear people talk about banning assault weapons, know that the real assault weapon is the liberal media. They are attacking your constitutional rights. It's a slippery slope. First it will be assault weapons, then ammunition, then handguns, and on and on and on. I'm Chuck Woolery, trying to save the Constitution, one amendment at a time.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show with any comments, questions, concerns, or feedback for me, or for the format of the show, if you have any comments or concerns about that, or questions, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. So, Jeb is dropping in the polls. I mean, he was in the teens, and he dropped. He's around 10, 11%. Now he's in the single digits. I saw one poll that had him at like 3%. I mean, he is starting to panic. It is panic time over at the Jeb campaign. He and his people, they're starting to flail around. And obviously, now he thinks it's a good idea to attack Donald Trump. This has not worked out well for any other candidate that has attacked Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham attacked him, and he was made to look stupid, and he's all but out of the race. I'm not even sure what he's doing, if he's still in the race or what's going on. I think he's polling like 0 now. Rand Paul was doing pretty well. He attacked Donald Trump during the Fox News assassination attempt over there, and now he's dropped. Everyone who attacks him drops. Everyone who attacks Donald Trump drops. So Jeb responds to his own dismal polling performance with attacks on Donald Trump. Yeah, that's going to work out well. But not only that, then I heard Jeb's attack.
El tema de Trump lo hace eso más difícil, porque el hombre no es conservador, no tiene una carrera que se puede decir que es conservador, y además de eso se trata de personalizar todo.
What a dope. What an absolute dope. This has got to be the stupidest thing I have ever seen or heard a presidential candidate do. I mean, it's pretty high up there with the Howard Dean, yeah, whatever. Could someone please tell Jeb he is indeed running for president of the United States, not Spain or Mexico or whatever he thinks he's running for. It was bad enough that he spoke Spanish during his announcement speech. He knows what he's saying. So to him, the whole thing makes sense and it flows, I guess. And it would be, it would be one thing to blurt out a phrase in another language in the middle of a speech. if you're, for some kind of, I don't know, some kind of theatrics, I guess. But he went on and on during his announcement speech. I mean, for like a few solid minutes, the guy spoke Spanish. I actually turned the channel while he was doing it. I mean, to him it all makes sense. He must not even realize that Americans are just turning the channel on him. And then what does he say in Spanish? I mean, I don't speak that gibberish, but I heard enough to understand that he's saying the hombre is not conservador or whatever. He's telling the Spanish-speaking people that Trump is not a conservative. Well, even if you concede the point, how does that help? How does that help Jeb? I mean, I thought the Spanish-speaking people were all Democrat. I thought they were all voting for liberals. I thought they all wanted Hillary. Along comes Jeb talking about Trump's not a conservative. That's an endorsement for Trump in that language. What an absolute buffoon. He's doing the stupidest thing he can do in the stupidest way he can do it. Saying something stupid while doing it. I mean, the problem, Jeb, is that you're not conservative. You're part of the elite Washington establishment, what Ted Cruz calls the Washington cartel. You're a part of that, Jeb. You're soft on Common Core. You're soft on a host of other issues. You're a Republican establishment, big government, progressive like your brother. You're part of the problem. We can all see how the establishment wants to create this air of inevitability, but we're not having it, Jeb. And I'm not on Trump's side necessarily. I'm just not on the side of some big government rhino masquerading as a conservative for an election. We're sick of that, Jeb. If you spent your time speaking out against John Boehner and Mitch McConnell, then you'd have my attention. But instead, you're attacking Donald Trump and doing it in the language responsible for me having to push 1 for English. I expect that we're going to see Jeb continue to just plummet in the polls. He just doesn't get it. This is the guy who said he wants to win the general by losing the primary or some stupid thing like that. I don't even know how you do that. But that's what he said. That's what he wants. He's one of these rhinos. He thinks it's a good idea to try to somehow out-left the left from the right. It just makes no sense to me. We know what wins landslide, one-sided elections. We know how to get Democrats to vote for our candidate. We know how to do this. It's called strong, unapologetic, Ronald Reagan type, bold colored conservatism. I mean, they were called Reagan Democrats for a reason. Not this shifty, prancing around, appeasement, pandering crap. I mean, look how well that worked for McCain and Romney. And they couldn't even beat Obama. The worst president in history. I keep saying Obama is the worst president in American history, and it's true. I mean, he is by far. But imagine what it must be like to be John McCain or Mitt Romney and to live with yourself, knowing that you lost to the worst president in history. And Jeb is trying to emulate them. What a buffoon. Trump signed the pledge, by the way. I guess you all saw that. Now he says he will support the eventual Republican nominee, whoever that is, if it's not him. I wonder what he got in return that we're not hearing about. The master negotiator got something, right? Now, I have a few stories here, and this is just funny stuff. You're going to like this. I got a brand new story on Hillary, who she has decided now that it's time to apologize for her email scandal, but she did it in true liberal Democrat fashion, where the apology basically amounts to, I'm sorry, you little people who are just too stupid to understand what I was up against as an historic female Secretary of State. I'm so sorry that you're dumb. That's the kind of apology that, she did. And of course she threw in, some of that, what do I know? I'm a doting old grandmother, blah, blah, blah. This amazing incompetence defense that seems to be running rampant in the Obama administration, as if somehow not knowing how to do your job is like a valid excuse for doing something completely stupid and illegal. But she did manage to throw in the little phrase, I take full responsibility. which when spoken by a liberal Democrat means exactly the opposite of what it normally means. Anybody associated with the Obama administration, again, it means I take responsibility, but of course I have no intention of accepting any blame or consequences for my actions. And in this case, I am certainly not going to drop out of this race. I'm going to continue to be in this race. Even if she's indicted, I could just see people still voting for this. She'll be in jail and they'll be voting for her. Just amazes me. But, and once again, she was out there with her, I know it was a bad idea to use a private email account, and I was trying to use one account to make things simpler so I didn't have two devices. Once again, completely sidestepping the issue. Okay, Hillary, you set up a private server to make sure that you were safely in between your documents and any subpoena. That's the part that pisses us off, Hillary. I don't care how many devices you had or didn't have. It's the fact that you set up a private server so that you could hide my work product from me. That's the part that makes me angry. Okay? And once again, she never addresses the real issue. Goes on talking about the things that she wants to talk about. And of course, I was not thinking when I first got in. Yeah, of course you weren't thinking. But we're supposed to believe that as president, you're going to do much better. And lastly, I've had this article for quite some time. I probably had it for a month here, waiting to share it with you, but I've just haven't gotten to it. But apparently, a Hamas leader, some kind of doctor, he was really confused about a cartoon. You know, these political cartoons that people draw to prove a point one way or another. And anyway, this guy ends up posting, it's a pro-Israel cartoon. But he posts it thinking that it's an anti-Israel cartoon. I mean, that's how dumb this guy is. And let me just read you this. A former Hamas health minister of the Gaza Strip, Dr. Bassem Naim, has embarrassed himself with his failure to understand a cartoon. Dr. Naim tweeted the picture above, and I'll have it, if you're looking at the posting page for this show, I'll have it in the rotation there. Dr. Naim tweeted the picture above, believing he was making an anti-Israel statement, only to find he had in fact ended up defending Israel against the United Nations mistreatment. As reported by UN Watch, the clearly confused Hamas leader seemed to believe the cartoon made the case for Israel's expulsion from the UN, tweeting the cartoon with the comment, "Israel out of UN." The executive director of UN Watch, human rights activist and international lawyer Hillel Neuer, decided he should help out. Choosing to ignore E.B. White's advice, explaining a joke is like dissecting a frog. You understand it better, but the frog dies in the process. He retweeted the Hamas doctor's post, adding, "Very confused Hamas ex-health minister tweets Israeli cartoon ridiculing UN anti-Israel bias." Dr. Naim still did not get it. For him, the explanation of the picture was that Israel does not deserve to be a UN member because of its war crimes against our people. This was the prompt for Neuer to explain the joke for the heart of thinking, showing step by step how it ridicules the immorality of the UN's anti-Israel bias. And of course, he went on to take the good doctor in Hamas through a step-by-step explanation of what the true meaning of the cartoon is. Now, like I said, I'll have it up in there. You'll see it scrolling by if you're looking at the post page. What it is it's basically a big shelf of some kind, bookshelf or whatever, and it's got countries' names on the shelves, like labeling the shelves. And there's, on the top, it says United Nations Human Rights Reports. So we're supposed to believe this is where all the human rights reports are going. And there's a dude on a ladder, and he's stuffing the Israel shelf full to the point of it breaking with UN violations reports from the United Nations against Israel. And of course, we see North Korea has a few pieces of paper. China, the shelf is empty. Russia, the shelf is empty. Sudan, the shelf has a cobweb growing in it. You know, and what the cartoon is showing is that the United Nations focuses constantly on Israel as if they're committing any human rights violations. They're constantly doing this because of them defending themselves when the attacks come from Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And this guy saw this cartoon as saying, see, Israel shouldn't be in the UN, when really what it was showing was how biased the United Nations is. Not reporting on nations like Sudan and North Korea and China. And this guy just didn't get it. I mean, you know, I hate to say this, and I know it's not very politically correct, but these guys are dumb. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're dumb. The Islamic religion has not contributed anything to society in, you know, hundreds of years. I mean, these people, it's like the Dark Ages over there. They're living in the 12th century. That's kind of the joke. You know, they run around with 12th century mentality. We're trying to live in a 21st century world. And the funny thing is they're still beating us. That's how dumb our leaders are. And that is going to do it for this week, folks. Thank you again for listening in today. Don't forget, if you want to email me, if you have any questions about anything I've said, if you have any comments, any concerns, or any feedback, you can feel free. Or maybe you just want to rant or vent, or just tell me to shut up. Maybe you have a music request. I get those too. Well, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Make sure you go to theraywarnershow.com. Check out the opinion page. I get lots of good articles posted there. And if you want to write about something that you're passionate about, you can do that and send it to me. I will post it there. While you're at it, make sure you visit the shop. Pick up all your Ray Warner Show gear. Got lots of cool mugs, t-shirts, and other things like that. And also consider a donation. Help keep the Ray Warner Show alive and fighting for conservative values. And don't forget, I don't know how you listen to the Ray Warner Show and the Ray Warner Quick Reports, but there are many ways you can listen. If you go to theraywarnershow.com, you can subscribe. You'll get a link in your email that'll take you directly to the post page. You can subscribe at the Ray Warner Show YouTube channel. You'll be notified about every show that gets posted there. Every show and every quick report is posted on the Facebook and on the Twitter. And also, you can get it at iTunes. You can download from iTunes, and you can download from theraywarnershow.com, and you'll have it on the go. However you listen, I am so thankful that you do. Please spread the word, and we will see you next week, folks. So long.